Target's announcement this week that it will allow transgender individuals to use the bathrooms of the genders that they identify with has led to widespread right-wing boycott threats already, at the very least threats, including some right-wing politicians, including U.S. congressmen, speaking against Target in favor of the North Carolina bathroom law. We've got Louie Gohmert in this video.
Why condemn North Carolina when they're just trying to protect the privacy of girls? And it's already been shown. You give guys a chance to say I'm transgender and I get to go in and film a girl in a shower. There will be people that do that. Why not let the transgender LGBTQ, RST, whatever the initials are, let them have their activities where they don't impose upon the privacy of someone who wants to go to the restroom or shower without someone from the opposite sex being there with them.
Who the fuck showers at Target, man? I mean, seriously.
I've considered it, like if you're busy. No, I don't know. Maybe he thinks that it'll apply to gyms or something like that. But even, I mean, there's a couple of problems with this, but you look like you want to jump in.
No, I'd have more, I would say sympathy, that's a dangerous road to go down. I would listen to his argument a little bit more with more credence if he wasn't so obviously mocking in terms of the LGBT.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what they're called. There's a group. So just to kind of then go and try and A, B, C, D and try and make light of it, I would have more ability or more willingness to listen to him if he didn't say activities as if there's something nefarious that they're doing. They're going to go and use the bathroom. That's it. They do the same thing that you do. Well, I don't know what you do when you go in the bathroom. I don't leave that between you and your. Anyway, leave it with you and your conscience. But they go into the bathroom. There's nothing else when they're activities. And I'd also finally have a little bit more tendency to listen to him and want to hear his argument. Not so saying I would agree with it, but certainly wouldn't agree with it, but I'd actually want to listen to his argument if it was based on any factual evidence. Because this is where the problem really begins, guys. This is when they say, well, it's the predator. We're protecting the girls from the predators. There's no evidence to support that argument whatsoever.
Yeah. No, there is evidence of predators, but it's not predators who are going in there to film little girls, which, by the way...
Dressed, I mean, the scenario that he's painting is there's a creepy guy hanging around, and what he's going to do is he's going to dress up as a woman and go into the women's bathroom in time. That's just a fiction that they've created.
Yeah.
There's no evidence to support. That is how predators operate. There are predators in the world, undoubtedly, and they prey on people in bathrooms. Yeah, sure, exactly. But you're making that link where there's no evidence to support it. And it's a fantasy that you're creating to support your agenda, which is you don't like them because you just don't like people who aren't like you. That's it. I'd almost have more respect for them if they actually called it.
Yeah.
So, I don't like them. It's got nothing to do with religious freedoms, got nothing to do with the Bible, nothing to do. I just don't like them.
Well, he came close to being honest with the LGBTQ PWST. I love that, like, you can't just, we know that he's not a fan of any of those communities, but that he has to stick the middle finger up at them. Which, by the way, and their argument is always that people just willingly choose to identify in this way. And why wouldn't you when you'll be mocked on the floor of the Congress by congressmen for that choice? And so I alluded to predators. There are predators in the bathrooms. They're the predators who routinely beat up transgender people who try to use the bathrooms of the genders that they use. And you just Google bathroom beating transgender and you will find multiple cases from just the last year of people who are just trying to use the bathroom and they have been horrifically beaten, in some cases by groups. And look, if somebody, first of all, you can't, this law is not going to allow a transgender person to film a girl showering. It's illegal now to film someone, and if you see someone with a camera out, you're fully allowed to call the cops. It doesn't matter if it's a guy or if it's a girl or whatever. And I feel the need, we say this every time, it's already happening. Transgender people are already going in and using those bathrooms. You just don't happen to notice it, which is why you shouldn't be so concerned about this. It's happened to you many times over the course of your life that you've shared a bathroom with a transgender individual and you have been none the worse for wear for the experience. Now, the AFA, the American Family Association, They want to both defend the law, like in North Carolina, while also understanding that people are more sympathetic towards the transgender community than they used to be. And so they put out this statement saying, "We want to make it very clear that AFA does not believe the transgender community poses this danger to the wider public. Rather, this misguided and reckless policy," talking about the attempt, I believe in Charlotte, to protect those people, that provides a possible gateway for predators who are out there. And so they've settled on this predator thing. And like, don't get it twisted, just a year or two ago, they were outright just saying it's disgusting and it shouldn't be allowed. And I think that this is a sign of the social progress that we've had as a country, that they now have to make up this fiction of the predator. It's better than nothing.
Yeah, the AFA have had a long history of protecting and promoting traditional moral values. They have they have assaulted and tried to TV shows that they didn't particularly like. You know, that they for 20 years they've so yeah. You're right. So again, I have to, when you see a statement like that coming out of a body such as AFA, you always have to look at who the people are behind it. I take your point that there's perhaps denotes some kind of progress. That being said, just 2 days previous, Rob Chambers, who is the one of their main spokespeople, was saying that PayPal was Satan. Did you see that?
I didn't
know
that.
Because PayPal had refused to go into North Carolina so they pulled their job. So it's the work of Satan, and it's also Hollywood. He said here, I believe it's the media in Hollywood. They understand it, and it's Satan. Satan will do anything.
Probably San Francisco as well.
So
I would imagine.
So I don't know. I'm a little more cautious on you and thinking that there's been some progress towards it, but hopefully. But they're creating. They're having to be more inventive, I think, and creative, rather than just saying it is just against the moral fiber of the country, because that just doesn't work anymore. They then have to come out with some threat and danger that this community poses in order to, try and make them have some kind of legitimacy.
These laws, in a very real way, they're projection. It's them demonstrating in a way that they don't realize they're demonstrating the very bizarre ways that they see the world, the fears that they have, that normal people thankfully don't have to have, but that they're just or
I don't think
you might be saying it's just politically.
I think it's prejudice. I don't think it's.
Oh no, I think it's prejudice based on fear.
But I don't know if it's. I don't know. I think
there's a fear component.
You think there's
because,
a fear?
Oh yeah, because they're signaling to everybody else, "I'm not gay." Yeah. Like that's what they're shouting out to the world.
I don't mean fear like you're being stalked by a serial killer.
Do they believe this predator
worry.
narrative? Do they believe the predator narrative? I guess that's my question.
I think. Look, I made the case a couple of days ago. I think that for a significant number of politicians, this is abortion, this is gay marriage, this is this cycle, this is what we're going to use. We're going to try to get ballot measures on a bunch of different places to get people out to vote. It could be that for some of them, it's just politically expedient. Like, why are all of these states doing this all in a 2 or 3 month period? Like, you couldn't have done this 2 years ago or next year.
Maybe they had they were running a Silence of the Lambs special down south, and so, because in their heads that's the only even fictional horrible trans person you could think of is Buffalo Bill.
Eric Byler, who is the camera person for our roving political reporter Jordan Sheraton, he sent me some information that talks about an area of this North Carolina, the House Bill 2, that most people haven't seen because, of course, I think rightfully so, we're worried about the possible ramifications of that bill on the transgender community, the LGBT community. But I'm going to skip to graphic 6A because you're going to see that there are areas of the bill that don't have anything to do with that and have slipped through the media's notice. So you have this section: the provisions of this article supersede and preempt any ordinance, regulation, resolution, or policy that regulates or imposes any requirement upon an employer pertaining to compensation of employees, such as the wage levels of employees, hours of labor, payment of earned wages, benefits, leave, or well-being of minors in the workforce. And it goes on to say, a county may not require a private contractor under this section to abide by any restriction that the county could not impose on all employers in the county, such as paying minimum wage or providing paid sick leave to its employees. That has nothing to do with transgender individuals. It's not, oh, you're going to force us to be fair to them in some sense, like other groups are protected. This is all basically anti-union policies, stopping you from enforcing laws on a minimum wage, on paid sick leave, all these things. They're trying to get out in front of what they, I think, rightly see as a unification on the left and the right, and understanding that workers are being screwed over and we need to do something for them. And yet that has not been discussed. It's in the same bill, but nobody even seems to know that it's there.
It's almost like that was the real purpose of the bill.
Maybe. And if you can get that
Trojan
real
horse.
purpose while also giving a middle finger to transgender individuals, why not?
Why not?
That's two birds, one stone. But anyway, there is a pushback. So we've got people like Louie Gohmert. We've got people saying that they're going to boycott both Target. But there's also people saying that they're going to boycott North Carolina. So boycotts are dueling on both sides.
Right.
We've talked about some of the groups that are doing this boycott. Brian Adams has apparently joined it, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Everything you do, North Carolina, he's going to still hate you unless you reverse that law. But it's not just that. It's also the NBA. So we've got the NBA Commissioner Adam Silver in this clip.
We did discuss the North Carolina statute at our owners' meeting. And let me begin by saying there's a long track record in this league of being in the forefront on issues impacting human rights and discrimination. And of course, this league, and I think I speak for all leagues, is against discrimination in any form. And there were no votes taken in the room, but it was unanimous among our owners that we stand united being against any form of discrimination for any group in our society. The law as it now stands in North Carolina is problematic for the league. There was no discussion of moving the All-Star game. What the view in the room was, we should be working towards change in North Carolina. And I think the best role for the league to play here is through constructive engagement towards change, not setting deadlines, not making ultimatums, but working with the private sector and the government to affect change in North Carolina. And let me say, my concern here is that it would be easy, in a way, to grandstand here and announce we are moving the All-Star game, even though that game is not scheduled to take place for 10 months. The issue for us, and maybe this is different than where some of the other businesses find themselves in North Carolina, is that we have a team in North Carolina. And that distinction, for example, between the All-Star game and the regular operation of a team is not clear to me. I mean, for example, we have a playoff game in Charlotte, North Carolina, in roughly a week from now. And I'm not sure what statement we would be saying about our team, or we'd be making about our team in North Carolina if we now announced that the All-Star game would not take place in North Carolina, but our team continued to operate there. So I think we as a league are in the best position to affect change by working with the government, by working with the private sector.
So they're saying that they're not at this point going to be moving it out there. But he's also making a pretty big statement about it if they've already decided that they're not going to. I mean, I don't think that it falls on every company to come out and say that we're not going to be pulling out of this state. And saying that they want to work constructively with the legislature. I don't know how many forms that could come in. It seems like putting pressure by at least talking about the possibility of moving the All-Star game out is maybe one way to do that, even if his explicit message is the opposite of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a very real economic consequence for North Carolina particularly, and it was something over $3 million already just in terms of lost revenue. There's a threat that they may actually have $4 billion worth of federal funding withheld from them as well.
That's a big hit.
Which is significant to say the least. So one fear, with the likes of PayPal refusing, with the likes of Deutsche Bank, I mean, geez, it's coming to something when the Wall Street banks have got higher morals than the place where they are. They're the kind of the moral benchmark by which things are being, valued. They're refusing to expand their operations there. So that is a significant and consequential action that's been taken. And my feeling is that it's ultimately going to have to be an economic threat to the state in order for them to change this law. And they will have to, behind the scenes, somehow come up with some justification for the U-turn, not to lose face. Because that ultimately what it'll be. It'll be a standoff between economics and their values, which they've really come forward on the front foot with. And it will just be impossible for them to have a complete U-turn without being, lacking any sense of legitimacy and being very embarrassed in the process.